I'm Devin Williams, and this is In Spite Of. Welcome to the Cain's Ballroom. If you've never been to the Cain's, then you've never really been to Tulsa. That's because every musician you can think of has played on this stage. Sid Vicious of the Sex Pistols punched a hole in the wall in the green room. As a souvenir, Jack White likes to kick his tours off at the Cain's. And Run the Jewels spit their rhymes at the house Bob Wills built. Who's Bob Wills? I'm glad you asked. The king of Western swing performed here daily from 1934 to 1942 on Tulsa station KVOO. With 25,000 watts backing him, Wills and his band, the Texas Playboys, would influence jazz, country, and rock and roll. Even if you don't know who Bob Wills is, you certainly have heard him in all the music that followed him. You could also argue that the electric guitar players that flocked to play with Wills formed the bedrock of every guitar style of popular American music. Crystal Patrick makes the case with our own guitar hero, Tulsa legend Paul Benjaman, helping us out.
The story goes like this. In 1938, legendary guitar maker and player Les Paul went to visit his mom in Waukesha, Wisconsin. Paul had been making a name for himself in New York with the Les Paul Trio. However, his mom thought he was wasting his time with Art Tatum, Benny Goodman, and Coleman Hawkins because the music was too classy. She made him some chili, then told him to listen to some real music from her favorite radio show, Bob Wills playing on KVOO. Paul was so impressed, he immediately made a trip to Tulsa, and before you knew it, Paul was jamming with the Texas Playboys.
Les Paul, he had been really interested in creating electric guitar, and he had problems with the feedback all the time. That was his main thing. And so his first idea was to try to make a solid guitar and come up with something where the top wouldn't move. And that's why guitars like a hollow body will feedback, is because the woods move as the sound's moving through the guitar in a scientific way. So that causes everything to shake. And yeah, if I pulled that arch top out and I turned it way up, you'd hear like a lot of feedback. And so him kind of being a tinkerer, he figured out that the dense material, having something really dense, something that didn't vibrate, a solid chunk of wood. He first started out with a railroad track, thought he would do that, but then he moved on to the idea of using just a solid piece of lumber that he had, and he built wings and put on the side of it and called it the log. And that's where that started. And then he was endorsee of Gibson, and he said it took him about 8 or 9 years to talk Gibson into it to start making the very first production solid body guitar. And they finally got around to it. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and it's interesting, and it's like the first round of Les Pauls weren't really big sellers. They weren't really popular with the players. Jazz was still big, and everybody wanted the big, big arch tops. And it was the rock and roll players later that came along. Yeah, creatively, he was always such a, he always had such a really hot, kind of flamboyant style, from his radio. And that probably came from his, one of his influences being a pianist, Art Tatum. And Art Tatum was a pianist that could play anything in any key, blazing speeds. Art Tatum was also Ray Charles's pocket favorite pianist. And so this is a little bit of Les Paul's playing How High the Moon. So he also was a pioneer in echo effects. Okay. So he had a collection of disc recorders. When you would hear that little echo, that little slapback, he was a pioneer in that. He also was a pioneer in building echo chambers. He popularized multi-track recording. Wasn't the guy that invented it, but he was the guy that popularized it and had some of the first multi-track recorders built that other artists used. So he had this thing called a polarizer that you could play into it, and it would play back whatever. It was the very first loop recorder. And so this technology here is going to play some chords for me, but Les Paul already had this whole thing together. So.
After one of his sets at the Cain's, Paul noticed a young black man watching intently from the edge of the stage. The man asked Paul for his autograph and said he played guitar. "You any good?" asked Paul. "Yes, sir," the man replied. Paul handed him his guitar and was blown away. That man was a jazz guitarist, Charlie Christian, the musician that would take the electric guitar from being a member of the band keeping time to fronting the show. Without Charlie Christian, there's no Jimi Hendrix, no Eddie Van Halen, and no Slash. Christian and Paul would jam with the Texas Playboys that day and become friends. Tragically, Christian would die of tuberculosis at the age of 25, but not before influenced guitar playing forever, as well as the creation of bebop. His new friend Paul had Gibson make him a guitar that he would modify to get the sound he was searching for.
Right around 1935 is when Gibson started making an electrified guitar. And the pickup was not actually at first called the Charlie Christian pickup, but Charlie Christian, who was raised in Oklahoma City and joined Benny Goodman's band, recorded the first recorded electric guitar solo. That was such a popular thing that the pickup became synonymous with his name. So from then on, this very primitive, very early pickup design was called the Charlie Christian pickup. Yeah, it has a little bit of buzz to it because of its old technology, but it has this real clarity while also having this real percussive sound. Okay, this next thing is this is an excerpt from Charlie Christian's Solo Fly, which was the first recorded electric guitar solo.
Christian perfected his style in his hometown of Oklahoma City, playing after hours in the Deep Deuce neighborhood. Other guitar players would arrive in Tulsa to play with wheels and hone their craft. Oklahoma native Elton Shaneland would be called the most inventive guitarist since Charlie Christian and Metronome magazine. Not only playing with wheels, but also the Merle Haggard band, The Strangers. And Leon McAuliffe would help popularize a style of steel guitar that most people now associate with the heart of country music.
Elton Shaneland was called by Rolling Stone magazine the greatest rhythm player of all time. And it's really in rhythm guitar that Elton Shaneland holds such a strong legacy. He would take a tune that, like one of the classic Bob Wills tunes, Take Me Back to Tulsa, if we're talking about Tulsa music. It's actually only two chords. It's a G chord and a D chord. Those two things. So you have, take me back to Tulsa, I'm too young to marry. Take me back to Tulsa, I'm too young to marry. So he would take those two chords, but since he had played in Tulsa and he had studied music in Oklahoma City and actually went to New York and studied jazz and got into Django Reinhardt, he learned a lot about how you can take one chord and learn different extensions of that chord, different flavors of that same chord, and also other chords that substitute for it. So he would play it instead of like, here it is, the original version, the basic that anybody can learn to play. His style added more movement.
So it's like layered?
Yeah, there's layers of complexity But notice how that adds like this little bit, we're talking about, going back to this theme of getting people to dance and getting people to move around and that kind of style. This G will do it for you.
Oh, yeah.
It'll get you going. But what about this G? And notice the Yeah, how about that? So that extra movement, that extra kind of complexity he was able to add. And he would never play the tune the same way twice. They would play, Bob Wills' band would play long sets in this hall for a long time. And so he was able to, he knew enough about the guitar and its harmony that he was able to play every Western swing tune a different way twice. So I'll hear an Elton Shaneland performance, and then I'll hear it again, and then it's a different. He's using different chords and different voicings. Before I ever got to play the Cains, it was a musical education just seeing concerts here. This was like the legendary place to play. And all the record stores told you about it, and all your friends in music would tell you about it. And I would see all styles of music here at the Cains growing up. I would see, definitely a lot of rock bands, a lot of alternative bands, metal bands. I would see country acts here. I would just, take it all in. And it booked just the wide variety of everything. I've seen everything from Elvis Costello to my hero Junior Brown play here, and Corrosion of Conformity. So, it's the place to where all the music just kind of flew through. And I learned so many things here firsthand. I got to see most of my favorite guitar players play here, and it was really just a growing experience for me. So when I got to play it, the first time, I was in a rock band, and we went out and just specifically bought white cowboy hats just as a tip to Bob the first time we played it. Yeah. That's how we felt reverence. We're like, man, we can't play on this stage without the white cowboy hat. We got to go. So we went to a Western shop, and we all bought white cowboy hats and wore them the very first time I played Cains.
No matter which guitar god you worship, understand that all paths lead right back here. What's your favorite musical act here at the Cains Ballroom? Let us know in the comment section below. Also, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single episode. I've been Devin. You are electrifying, and we'll see you very soon.